The Democrat dream was an administrative state, a nameless administrative state of bureaucrats and bureaucracies that decide every aspect of your life. And we lived through that and we saw that. And then on their way out the door, the administrative state strikes again and they get themselves all pardons because one thing they're afraid of most is accountability.
Is it legal to have an auto pen signature, an auto pen pardon, preemptive pardon, by the way? None of these people, other than Jerry Lundergan and a handful of others who had been sent away, were actually charged with anything. He was just trying to prevent, justice.
Why does the United States pay higher drug prices than other countries? Because America's the only country in the world where 340B hospitals mark up drug prices and PBM middlemen charge billions in hidden fees. Meanwhile, Americans subsidize the research and development for new cures. Other countries benefit, but don't pay their fair share. Crack down on the middlemen. End the free riding. Lower drug prices. Go to balancethescales.org to learn more. Paid for by Pharma.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Well, if it isn't a good Tuesday to you, and welcome back to the Ruthless Variety Program. I'm Josh Holmes, along with Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan, and John Ashbrook, left to right across your radio dial. As always, we got a hell of a show. Thank you for all of you for tuning in last week. I think we did 3 quality little submissions, and we're getting back into it. We've got a lot to laugh about here right up the front. Turns out the auto pen thing, Biden with all the commutations that they get, we all suspected that he probably wasn't up to the job. Signing his name, I felt like was maybe a bar below even the...
Couldn't even do that.
couldn't, but there's been a lot of news here made over the weekend and into Monday that we're going to cover today on the auto pen. We also got some other stuff here. State Department, well, they laid off a few people. Turns out, like the trans studies in Tanzania, now they found out that maybe that's not the best use of taxpayer dollars. So democracy's over.
Oh, no.
It's over.
Yeah,
guys,
right.
They had to fire a couple of people, and so then that's it. I guess we just pack our bags and go back to England.
It was incredible. It was 2 things. It was incredible seeing the tantrum from the folks who were let go. Made it extremely clear these are the right cuts, and then the tantrum from the journos was just icing on the cake.
It's just so it's so good. And then look, there's news. There's real news from the president who had a NATO summit. It wasn't a summit, but a NATO meeting on Monday where he talked about some Ukraine stuff. We're going to contextualize some of that and give you a good idea of what's going on. Turns out it's not a good idea to piss off Donald Trump and the world community.
Doesn't work out well.
Doesn't work out well.
There's a track record of it working very badly for people.
You'd think people would learn this.
It would. And then we got some variety and some things to laugh about here. But it's going to be a very good show. I think we need to start with the auto pen.
Yes.
Fellas, there was a big story that was unearthed over the weekend where Biden says he made the clemency decisions that were recorded at the time by auto pen. The New York Times did it, Axios did it, all kinds of different things. But that's not really the way it was portrayed to the American people. Remember, these are very controversial, end-of-the-term type clemency decisions where the president insisted and his staff insisted that he was very involved in all of this because they were controversial. And it was like, wow, that goes totally against type for everything that Joe Biden said he was going to do, starting with the pardoning of his son all the way through with like Fauci and the rest of them. And you're like, wow. I mean, he repeatedly assured the American people he wasn't going to do that. And then he pardoned him. And so there was a big question as to like what his level of involvement of all of that was. And the Trump administration took control and looked at the signatures for these things and were concerned. And they unearthed the idea that perhaps he wasn't in control of it, that perhaps they were signed by an auto pen. And for those of you who haven't been involved in like political capacity or, big corporations do this. And AutoPen operates in many different ways. Today's day and age, it's mostly like a graphic thing. But in politics, and I think this is still the way it works in the White House, I don't know because I haven't seen it. But I know when I worked in the Senate, in AutoPen, you literally wrote your signature, and then they created a literal pen that you put the thing into that would operated on this rotational basis where it just wrote your signature. It was like the most medieval looking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And I couldn't believe that's how they signed like constituent letters and stuff in the United States Senate. And I think they kind of do that at some level in the White House. I'd be interested to know the answer to that because that's not spelled out. But either way, what was very clear based on the articles is that they used an AutoPen for some of these incredible decisions that the president himself, Joe Biden, said he was extremely involved in. And then he said, so Biden was initially interviewed by the New York Times on all this, said he had orally granted all the pardons and commutations at the end of his term, calling President Trump and other Republicans liars for claiming that they had used the AutoPen.
Yeah. So number one, I think it's incredible that Joe Biden, who's kind of trying to stay out of the limelight here after, he was forced out by Barack Obama and George Clooney, and
right.
Kamala replaced him and then ate shit and lost to Donald Trump. But that he chooses this moment to defend his legacy.
Yeah.
On the AutoPen.
He's like, yeah, no, liars.
But there's been a lot of stories here in the last, couple of weeks that have not been the best for Republicans. And so it's like Joe Biden, like Leroy Jenkins, just comes out and is like, no, let's make it about me and the AutoPen. I'm going to do a full interview. And the liars thing, I think, is fascinating here. I want to read a more extended clip from that because it's instructive, I think, to this entire conversation.
Please.
This is from that interview on Trump and other Republicans saying Biden was incapacitated and his aides abused the AutoPen. They're liars, Biden said. They know it. They know for certain. I mean, this is, look, what they've had a pretty good thing going here. They've had a pretty good thing going here. And then his next line is, they've done so badly. They've lied so consistently, almost everything they're doing. The best thing they can do is try to change the focus and focus on something else. And this is I think that's what this is about. Okay, so not exactly.
Oh, the board's weighed in.
Not exactly at his best.
The board is weighed in.
I think that's valuable.
He said everything in that quote except nurse. I need help right now. I am not convinced that it is Joe Biden doing Leroy Jenkins. I have some suspicion that the same aides who ruined our country over the 4 years that he was incapacitated and signed the AutoPen, maybe without his knowledge, were the people who were pushing this because they're the ones who cared so much about all of the pardons that were granted under that AutoPen.
I just think it's particularly funny to use this opportunity to call Republicans liars. Like, you would think if you had some sort of like cognitive ability in your brain or a memory of what you had done around this whole pardon thing, you might not pick the pardon issue to be a time to say that Republicans are liars. Might I remind you what Joe Biden said back in June of 2024? This is him talking about at a G7 summit. I said I'll abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him, meaning Hunter Biden. Liar. Look, the board is active today.
Liar.
It's a double board. No, I mean, but that is the basis of why this whole thing has gone completely off the rails, is that we all saw that debate performance. That confirmed the suspicions for those of us who wanted to pay attention over the previous 3 years, that this is not a man at the wheel, and that there were aides that were running a whole bunch of things. And then you had like the first-person testimony from President Biden himself on a whole bunch of things saying, I would never do this. I would never do this. And then all of a sudden the whole thing shows up, and it's not just Hunter Biden. I mean, we're talking about Anthony Fauci, Mark Milley, Valerie Biden Owens, Sarah Jones Biden,
Jerry Lundergan.
Jerry Lundergan.
Yeah.
Jerry, which, for those of you who aren't OG listeners, Jerry Lundergan was the father of Allison Lundergan Grimes, a Senate candidate in 2014 that we took an interest in. And much of this crew worked on a campaign against her. And it turned out like halfway through that, we couldn't help but notice the fact that the entirety of her campaign was being funded off the books. It didn't show up in FEC reports, which are required to report all the expenses of a campaign, but you had like buses and airplanes and helicopters that were all of a sudden like a part of her campaign apparatus that never showed up in the FEC report. And so it turns out there was a number of stories that were just asking questions. And, well, old Jerry didn't have a lot of answers. And it turns out he'd been in trouble with this kind of thing before, had gotten himself off. But now that his daughter was running, he was a little... I would say taking more risk than he would ordinarily take. And he got rung up. FEC complaint led to a DOJ investigation, led to a full conviction of the fact that he was running his daughter's campaign off the books. He gets sent to the brig, which, by the way, if you're in politics, like this is the thing that you actually try to prevent. It's the reason why you have an FEC is that people don't just like corruptly fund from their own pockets in a way that you don't know as the voter how they're executing this campaign. And he gets rung up, sent to jail. Well, she ran for Senate, and so, of course, Jerry Lundergan got himself a pardon from Joe Biden, right?
Our nation is standing up for American workers, restoring the pride of making products here at home. That's what we do every day. We're America's beverage companies, making American products with American workers in America's hometowns, delivering brands that have been enjoyed for generations, creating good-paying jobs, the kind that require only a strong work ethic. Because we believe in the promise of America and the people who make it great.
Hardworking Americans know when it's time to roll up our sleeves and get the job done. Now is the time to unleash our nation's energy, to create jobs, secure our future, and make life better, more affordable, and full of opportunity for all Americans. That's the power of America's oil and natural gas. Learn more at lightsonenergy.org. Paid for by the American Petroleum Institute.
But if you look at all of these things and the way that they had presented themselves, the real question that the Trump administration surfaced at the time was whether they're legal. Is it legal to have an auto pen signature, an auto pen pardon, preemptive pardon, by the way? None of these people, other than Jerry Lundergan and a handful of others who had been sent away, were actually charged with anything. He was just trying to prevent, justice.
I mean, to me, this is so explosive right here. This, when I saw this, it knocked my socks off because it's essentially an admission of everything that we've been saying about Joe Biden. It says, Mr. Biden did not individually approve each name for the categorical pardons that apply to large numbers of people. He and aides confirmed. Rather, after extensive discussion of different possible criteria, he signed off on the standards he wanted to be used to determine. So he didn't approve. He wasn't like, I'm going to pardon this guy. I'm going to pardon this guy. I'm going to pardon this guy. They're all confirming, him and his aides, that he was like, well, let's let out the folks who are my friends. They're like, say no more, auto pen away.
Dude, I mean, look, the assistants who drafted the blurbs that you're talking about here, blurbs referencing either broad categories of people or specific individuals, were not in the room during these discussions when Biden, according to the list of meeting participants, actually agreed to any of these things. The email, this is according to the New York Times, the emails imply that Mr. Siskel and Mr. Zients, Zients was his chief of staff at the time, relayed what Mr. Biden had said to the assistants who then documented it.
They just admitted it.
Dude, I mean, it's completely insane to me that we're dealing with this kind of thing in this day and age. Like, you want to talk about the worst possible transparency of any administration? You got a president today who every single decision he's ever made, for better or worse, he goes out and does a 15, 20-minute press conference where he asks and answers every single question that anybody has to say. And like, you can get all outraged about what he says, or you can be all excited about what he says, but you know it. These people had an invalid in the White House that everybody was concerned whether he would wake up before noon. And then they just auto-pen. They're like, here's a broad group of people.
That's so wild. I mean, it's a complete admission of all the things that Trump said. He was like,
Well-
this guy is not in control. His aides are running the show, and all of them just admitted it.
Okay, so I guess just to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
You can make an argument, like if you were talking about one of those categories, like, you know, we're going to issue pardons for like minor marijuana offenses for this category of people, and it's, you know, it's got 500 people in it, and he's not going to individually sign on all of those. Maybe in that use case, if it was correctly authorized by the President of the United States, you could use the auto pen on those 500 in the same way that you might with constituent letters. But the auto pen wasn't limited to those use cases.
No.
Here, I mean, let's put up the clip, the first clip one. This is an animation of auto pens for some pretty high profile pardons. Okay. Yep. So that's Biden's family pardon, the Fauci pardon, the General Milley pardon, the Jerry Lundergan pardon, all of those pardons, major pardons, all done possibly
with
here
an
with auto pen.
identical signature.
Right.
I mean, that's the, so if you're an
perfect.
audio-only listener, what we just provided was a merging of all of the signatures that were done for the pardons that you just outlined into a centerpiece, and there were a perfect overlap on all of them. Perfect. Now, maybe he is incredibly specific about it, but he did sign one, didn't he, Michael?
Oh, he signed one. And turns out it's the most revealing one and the only one he really cared about. Let's put up that graphic. Oh, yeah, he signed Hunter Biden's pardon.
And look at how fucked up that signature
Totally
is.
fucked. That is not auto pen.
The B.
He didn't even get the B right in his own name.
Hey, is the I dotted over the N? Can we just put that
Can we
back
put
up?
this back up?
Yeah,
It
the
is.
I
Yeah,
dotted,
there's an I
He
dotted
got
over
close. He was about 4 letters
the
away.
B is pretty close to a D.
And there's an accent mark over the N.
Yeah, well, maybe it's a tilde.
It's just,
Bidenio, Senor Bidenio.
I mean,
but
he
doesn't
was quite fond of immigration.
doesn't that really sort of tell you everying?
Yes,
It's
the
like,
only one he cared about was like, well,
Right.
got to get the family business.
I don't actually care about any of these things.
he signed one thing, but he's still lying about it.
Right.
It's incredible. All right, so President Trump actually talked about this at a press conference yesterday that I think helps illuminate sort of the view that we have and a lot of people have on all of this. If we could play that clip now.
You're talking about the auto pen. Look, the auto pen, I think, is maybe one of the biggest scandals that we've had in 50 to 100 years. This is a tremendous scandal. And I know the people on the other side of the, see that desk, that Resolute desk? Unfortunately, he used it before me. But, you know, we have our choice of 7 desks. They're all beautiful, but I chose the Resolute, and so did he, unfortunately. But the people on the other side of the Resolute desk, I know them. Lisa, the whole group, and they're no good. They're sick people. And I guarantee you he knew nothing about what he was signing. I guarantee it.
He knew nothing. I guarantee it. And that's the big fear.
I mean, he would know. We all saw that debate. It was like a year ago where he was like, I don't understand what he just said there, and I don't think he did either. I mean, like, he was
same
right.
time he was claiming to be a 7 handicap or something like that.
That was the best. He was like, I'm going to hold you accountable because that's a bridge too far.
I can't have it. Simply can't have
Bro,
that.
don't ever say you could beat me in golf.
I just think the quality of the signature, the one time he actually had to do it, tells you everything you need to know about all the signatures he didn't have to.
Can we pop that one back up one more time?
Yeah.
This is a signature. If you are not a video viewer of this, you will not believe how bad this is. This is the kind of thing that you would ask for a fresh sheet of paper.
Just print it out again, dude.
You
Just
know what I
print it
mean?
out.
It's like, well, the B doesn't work. There's a dot over the N. He throws the junior in there, but it's like it has no resemblance at some level from the
But also,
signature
imagine
that they're claiming.
you're probably the poor guy. He's probably like in a panic. You've got Hunter across the desk. He's slapping you a couple times. He's checking his watch.
Parody,
the movers
parody.
are
We're
grabbing
laughing.
shit and they're moving it out of there. He's like, you need to hurry this shit up, Dad. Hurry this shit up.
Look, I don't know if it was done, with dotting the right I's, crossing the right T's. Obviously, Biden wasn't capable of that, but ostensibly there's somebody at the White House who's making sure the auto pen was used in the correct way. Probably not. Who knows? But it is a microcosm of the whole problem of the Biden 4 years in the White House.
Yeah.
And that is there were major policy decisions that were outsourced, as Ashbrook always says, not to Joe Biden, but to these people who are running the country, to Elizabeth Warren staffers.
Warren, Bernie Sanders people. This was the great deal that Joe Biden cut with the left wing of his party when he got the nomination back in 2020, that they would be in charge.
that he would acquire dementia as soon after his. He would take the oath of office and then just
Why do you think he accepted the deal?
go to a place for mom.
Right, exactly. He'd live out his lifelong dream of holding the title of President of the United
think you're
States,
right.
even if he isn't functionally the guy doing the job.
But it does raise a good question about whether any of it's legal.
That's the question I want to know.
I don't know.
In my mind, boy, if the guy doesn't know where he is and you have a machine signing for him, I mean, get out of here.
It's just why you got it. There has to be some kind of investigation. I understand for those of you who are like, what does this have to do with like my economic well-being and my safety and security? Believe me, the Trump administration's working on all that. So this isn't backward looking so much as is preventing the next case, the next possibility. Because if you have an administration like the Biden administration that was running on auto pen, literally, you don't know the faces and the names of the decision makers on that who have no accountability whatsoever.
Certainly weren't elected.
And all of a sudden we have some pretty far-reaching stuff. Remember, these are preemptive pardons. It's not just about getting Hunter out of the
That's the
brig.
thing is this is about because the Democrat dream was an administrative state, a nameless administrative state of bureaucrats and bureaucracies that decide every aspect of your life. And we lived through that and we saw that. And then on their way out the door, the administrative state strikes again and they get themselves all pardons because one thing they're afraid of most is accountability.
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right.
Dude, can you guys imagine, first of all, how bad it must have been in the Oval Office in the waning days? Like, first of all, your dreams are shattered, right? Like, the guy that you thought you could just shove through, like it all blew up in the summer, and then you learned to hate your vice president because, she took it all on.
In the closing days, I bet they felt great. They're like, we all knew Kamala's an idiot.
Yeah, well, I think that there's an element of that, no question. But
it's still demoralizing to see Hunter slapping Joe around.
But then
you don't want to see that.
But then there's business to be done, and at some point, whether it was Zients or whomever, they're like, "Hey, listen, there's some serious shit that we need to take care of before we leave."
So we got to make sure we don't go to jail.
And then you
bro.
look across the Oval Office and you see this guy bobbleheading around behind the desk to the extent that he's even there, and you're like, "We're gonna need the auto pen on this."
Yeah.
Like it's essential.
Well, the funniest auto pen to me, like just think about this. All right, Hunter, he signs that pardon.
Yeah.
That's the one he cares about.
Right.
Hunter's in jeopardy, and he wants to make sure that this guy doesn't get held accountable for any of the things. But then he auto pens the rest of the family.
That's brutal.
True.
Like
That's tough.
What is Thanksgiving like after
No,
that?
it makes a Thanksgiving very uncomfortable. You auto pen my pardon?
Right.
And he's like, I don't know, it's in a stack.
Also, we were told for 4 years that like this whole idea of the Biden crime family was some sort of like right-wing fever swamp idea.
Yeah.
And then he blanket pardons other members of the family, people who we found out thanks to Jamie Comer and all these other investigations that like there were all these payments coming through these Chinese funds and stuff to like grandchildren, and they get auto-penned.
I don't think their Thanksgiving looks like everybody else's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I really
gotta
don't
be a
like the
tough
idea
one.
that everybody's sitting around a table sharing stories from the year. The patriarch is drinking Ensure in some hospital bed.
Yeah.
He's not sitting carving a turkey.
All that Chinese money gets you a lot of Peking duck.
Hey,
You know,
well,
probably not a turkey.
and,
at Thanksgiving.
yeah, instead of like a sweet potato, you get a plate of blow
Yeah.
or something.
As long as he got it out of the locker.
Yeah, something. Listen, it's an incredible story. We're going to stay on it. I'm thinking that Congress might have some additional inquiry
I think
after
so.
that story. But
They should.
coming up, several hundred fired from the State Department. We're going to show you what that all looked like.
It's so good.
I mean, you want to see this is what you voted for and more right after this.
President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill is now the law of the land, a fantastic achievement that will kickstart our economy, strengthen immigration enforcement, and unleash American energy. I feel confident saying that no other organization put as much time, effort, and money into making this happen as my good friends at Americans for Prosperity. Listen to this. Americans for Prosperity had 1,500 meetings with Congress, contacted 1 million voters, and held more than 750 community events. And now that the bill is passed, AFP plans to defend those who took tough votes to support the president's agenda. That's the kind of grassroots activism Americans for Prosperity is famous for. As we move on to other important issues like spending restraint, it's good to know AFP and its grassroots army is locked and loaded. Want to join a winning team? Check out AFP at afpvolunteer.com. That's afpvolunteer.com.
All right, so State Department, I think we've all been well aware that this is like the home of the deep state, right? These are people who are so leftward leaning that their commitment to the international community has far exceeded their commitment to the American taxpayer at some level, that they're obstacles to anyone who is attempting to do what President Trump is to do, which is make America first, right? I mean, their whole job description as they define it is basically taking care of the world community. And we've had a very significant sea change on all of that. Now, Rubio, interestingly, is taking like a very specific approach to all of this. He's not doing like the Elon hack it off at the head and then ask questions later. Like he took 7 months to try to take inventory of what it is that they've got going on there before they make any moves. Now they made some moves. Well, democracy is ending. Democracy is ending, folks. If you take a look at graphic 2,
Oh my God.
what the employees that were leaving left a couple of notes on the walls there at the State Department. Colleagues, if you remain, resist fascism. Remember the oath you vowed to uphold. Now, unless there's another oath that I'm unfamiliar with, that was about the United States of America, which is, of course, not the reason that those people have found the exits. The second was, here sat America's experts on democracy, human rights, yes, which include women's, LGBTQ, and minority rights, election security, freedom of expression, privacy, countering corruption, violent extremism, and disinformation, and more, and you've released them and hundreds of their colleagues into the wild of the United States of America.
It has to be the most dramatic thing I've ever read in my entire life.
I mean, I was seeing all these images pop up. Of,
like it's their grave, like headstone.
yeah. So I mean, they were putting out on desks like construction paper and markers and tape to be like, leave a message and tape it to the wall. And it's like this whole joke and meme of how like for 4 years we were ruled by a bunch of theater kids is so true.
So
These were
true.
just like a bunch of kindergartners
It's
trying to play
infantile.
grown up. It's the most absurd, ridiculous shit that like here sat all the experts on democracy to remember to resist fascism. Tape it to the wall. Get your shit and get out of here, man. Get your shit and get out of here. Like, are you for real? Like, let's see what happened under your 4 years. Well, the world caught fire. The world caught fire. Our border got opened, and all of the world's problems came to America, and all of the world's tyrants knew they had free reign because we had a guy who could barely swallow Jell-O sitting in the Oval Office. That's what happened on your watch, the guardians of democracy. All right? Now let's see what's happened since there's been a new sheriff in town. Around the world, it looks like dictators are on the run.
Yeah.
fascism seems to be getting its ass kicked lately. And democracy is not when Trump, Trump won, so democracy must end. We just saw that guy not only win the electoral, but the popular vote. That's what democracy looks like. And
Well,
it looks
they
like
are
these
the
clowns
people.
getting the hell
Such
out.
a great point.
They are the people that were a target for the way that Americans voted, because like their tolerance for tyrants extended just as far as their activism and no further. They could tolerate a tyrant all day long, provided they were able to take some grants on trans studies.
Yeah. I
Right?
mean,
or like have flags like the LGBT flag above the embassy or
Right.
what have you.
Right.
Like that's what these people became. It was like I have no doubt that somewhere in there is a group or a small number of people who are trying to do the right thing that got caught up one way or another. But that's not it. Like what's it is that the whole system had folded in on itself, that created by the American taxpayers a funded activism across the
that's
world
It. That's it.
that instead of helping American people be safe, have their streets paved, crime go away, secure their borders, their taxes be lower, all of that was not a concern of any of these people because they didn't find themselves in the remit. What did find themselves in the remit was making sure that you had men and women's sports in Tanzania.
That's the thing is, to me, there was no greater sign that these cuts were right on target, perfectly executed, than the fact you start seeing these signs pop up. Because do you know where you see markers and construction paper signs? You see those at rallies. You see those from activists. And clearly, all these folks getting cut were activists trying to use taxpayer dollars for their activism. They wanted your money to fund their activism. And they're gone now. Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, dude, listen, it's just so obvious. And I hope this continues. I hope there's more.
More of this.
I hope
Love to see
Democrats
it.
dig in on it.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
I'd like to have a second and third conversation about what it is that a lot of these people were up to.
Yeah.
Because what you find out is not going to be good. You're not going to like it. And I think Rubio and Trump and everybody else has done a hell of a service to the American taxpayer on this. Here's my favorite story, fellas.
This is going to be my favorite part of the show, probably.
This is my favorite story. So you recall on last Friday we had that on Fun Times Friday that thing about the clown.
Yeah.
And
WAPA. Yeah.
It turns out we've been severely neglecting the opinion pages of the Washington Post and New York Times and for just pure content, because what we found in 2 straight days is just an amazing thing. So the New York Times wants to weigh in on all this and get themselves on the program. It's great publicity. Many listeners, right?
Hottest, most influential podcast in the country.
That's
yeah,
right.
well, that's exactly
That's what
right.
folks say.
That's what everybody's saying. Hottest podcast in the country. Anyway, they say, is it time to stop snubbing your right-wing family? Which we felt was
Amazing.
right on the barrel of the bat of the old Ruthless variety program. It goes right back to our Thanksgiving episode from the very beginning and everything else. But Duncan, it seems like this one has taken an additional flair that you've noticed.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's interesting because they've kind of come full circle. You remember back during COVID, there was just a lot of focus on shunning,
Bully your
Yeah.
family.
Republicans and all of that, and especially in just sort of generally in the age of Donald Trump, it was
Yeah.
cut ties with your MAGA uncle. That was sort of their posture and all of this. And now that Donald Trump has won again, and like Smug pointed out, he won every single battleground and the popular vote in the Electoral College. They've seen the light.
Yeah.
All it took was all of those things happening again. They've now seen the light. And in particular, this is interesting because it's written here by David Litt, who worked for. He was one of the speechwriters for Obama.
In the Obama White House.
Yeah, so let me just read here from the article.
These are gems.
This is real. I just want to say here at the top, I'm just reading from the article. I'm not making this up. Not too long ago, I felt a civic duty to be rude to my wife's younger brother.
Amazing.
I met Matt Kapler in 2012, and it was immediately clear we had nothing in common. He lifted weights to death metal. I jogged to Sondheim.
My
Amazing.
God. He jogged to theater
Show tune.
show
Is that
tunes.
what that is?
Yes.
That's
He put that in writing.
that's what happens.
He jogs to like Sweeney Todd.
Can I say what? Can I say what?
Send in the clown.
When you first sent that, Duncan, I was reading it really fast, and I think I was more accurate in my interpretation. I read that as like, instead of he said my wife's brother, I read as my wife's boyfriend listens to death metal and lifts weights. I was like, sounds like Obama. Sounds like Obama, folks, 100%.
Okay.
Well, so that's just sort of the that's how he starts it. I got to give the guy credit for one thing. This entire piece is just painfully honest.
I want to highlight one thing that really got my goat
Yeah.
from that section. It was the same part that was just up there where he says, I was one of President Barack Obama's speechwriters and had an Ivy League degree. He was a huge Joe Rogan fan and went on to get his electrician's license.
yeah, and,
It's just the snootiness.
What a piece of garbage.
yeah, which informed his initial decision to be a dick to him.
Yeah.
Right? Here's somebody
I'm
who's
better than you.
Yeah, I'm better than you. And this is, in my mind, the encapsulation of the modern left. Now,
Yep.
this guy has had somewhat of a turn to the point where he wants to put it in the New York Times opinion pages. But the New York Times has found it so fascinating that somebody could come around on something like this. It's worth sending it to the world.
That's right, that an Ivy Leaguer could come around on an electrician.
A mere electrician.
Think about it. That's the real American story. Look at reaching down to get out of here.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. The electrician is smarter than the Ivy League person because he's an electrician, and not
Starring-
an Ivy League stooge.
Yeah.
Starring Hugh Grant and Sarah Jessica Parker. You know what I mean? It's like, this is the way, the framework that they...
He goes on to say something, and I just want to read this before you get to your next one, Duncan, because this fits exactly what you're talking about, Holmes. As it was on the rare and always outdoor occasions when we saw each other, I spoke in disapproving snippets. Work's been good? Mm-hmm. So, like, the electrician is supposed to read this guy's mind that, like, oh, he must be upset because of COVID.
Yeah.
And therefore, I need to read his mind to understand why he's being passive-aggressively upset with me. Like, who acts like this? What normal person acts like
Can't
this?
say that for
Only
the-
a speechwriter
what normal
for Barack
man does
Obama.
this, dude?
Well,
Come on, man.
yeah,
We already
that's
got to
right.
deal with half the country that you got to read their mind, and then they'll do that kind of. You don't do that to your fellow
Unbelievable.
man.
Don't do it.
Get out of here.
You don't do it. You just don't do it. And by the way, it's no cup of tea for this guy to go to Thanksgiving.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine the argument he's going
He's
to
like,
have
I'm
with his
seated
poor
next
wife?
to the mere electrician.
He's like, this guy's like, your brother hates me.
Yeah, right. He had the gall to ask him how work was. Like, think
Right.
about that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's just to continue on that same vein, because the heart of this, a lot of what he's writing in here is about COVID, right? He said, my frostiness wasn't personal. It was strategic.
Oh, yes. No, very smart.
Being unfriendly to people who turned down the vaccine felt like the right thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
How else could we motivate them to mend their ways? I wasn't the only one thinking this. In a 2021 essay for USA Today, declared, it's time to start shunning the vaccine hesitant. An LA Times piece went further, arguing that to create, quote, teachable moments, it may be necessary to mock some anti-vaxxers' deaths.
Dude,
yes.
dude, I mean, this is... Set aside everything that we've come to know about that period of time, as we've talked about, one of the dumbest periods of time of all time. This guy is like, well, I read the esteemed pages of the USA Today.
Yeah.
That's right.
And the LA Times. It's like, basically, like I stared into a porta potty and it told me X.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Key validators, which is what normal people need when they're saying what it is they think. No normal person talking in a normal conversation is like, you know what? As it was said in the USA Today and the LA Times, therefore, my argument is correct. He's very defensive.
So I read it actually a little bit differently, guys.
Oh, okay.
The way I read it was like this was him washing his hands of what an asshole he's been.
Oh, it's like...
It's not my fault.
Everyone was
The
thinking
LA
that.
Times
The
says it's
esteemed
okay.
LA Times was like, we should mock the deaths
Yeah.
of other fellow Americans. So, yeah, I know I'm admitting to being a complete asshole for no reason to this really nice guy who's asking me, like, how work is. But you have to understand, I was gaslit by the LA
But you
Times.
don't understand. I picked up a piece of paper that was the equivalent of a diarrhea wipe, and I trusted its point of view.
I was just a humble Ivy Leaguer who worked for Barack Obama. What was I to know?
What was I to know?
You know, he continues to wash his hands.
Yeah.
Because he says shunning as a form of accountability goes back millenniums.
Oh, there's history involved.
In
No, he did his research.
In ancient Athens, a citizen deemed a threat to state stability could be ostracized. The left often reaches back to ancient Athens for their justification. He goes on. The whole point of Hester Prynne's Scarlet Letter was to show she had violated norms.
No.
So now all of a sudden the left is like, oh, well, maybe that was a good thing.
It's like this book I read in high school also said,
Scarlet.
like, no.
They're like, no, so we maybe
Is he
should be
is he on
Scarlet
is he on
Letter.
X? I'm gonna bully this guy. I'm gonna find this guy if he's online, and I'm gonna bully him.
He's an Ivy Leaguer. He's well read.
You're gonna engage him using back. Hello.
Oh my god, I'm gonna destroy this dude online.
I think what's so
and I'm gonna find his brother-in-law, who sounds awesome, by the way.
Yeah, he's had to put up with more shit than anybody.
Unbelievable.
I think what's so funny about it for an Ivy Leaguer and a well-educated guy is referencing the Scarlet Letter and Hester Prynne. He hasn't even realized, like, he's inverted the lesson of that book.
Right.
And it's proof of like what we always say in criticizing liberals is like, it's not that they don't know anything. It's that they haven't actually learned the cognitive skills to interpret the things they know.
That's right.
They just know facts.
Critical thinking is
And there's
not
no
something they have.
right.
They
exactly.
try to actually
But it's
get rid
all
of it.
it's also always in the service of power.
Yeah.
And in this case, what he's talking about in the service of power is you're not just taking our word for what's good and what's bad. So therefore, all the lessons that we should have unlearned by some of history's great tragedies should be applied here.
Yeah.
To in not in a tragic way, but in a service to our fellow man.
Okay, so are you ready for the turn?
Yes.
Here's the great turn here in this piece. He wanted to learn how to surf.
Mm-hmm.
He was taking up surfing. Turns out, Matt Gapler,
Good surfer?
this electrician that he looks down on,
Yeah.
and has shunned for many years, he's a really good surfer.
Matt's a good surfer.
Finally, he needs something from Matt.
Okay. All right.
Of course, he's the athlete in the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why he'd want to be around somebody who's unvaccinated.
Who'd have guessed that this other cat couldn't put his feet together on top of the board?
Not well coordinated. I'm shocked.
Weird.
Okay, so here's the turn. It helped that in the ocean our places in the pecking order reversed. Matt's a very good surfer. One might call him, quote, an elite. I am not.
Yeah, no shit.
According to surfing's unwritten rules, he had the right to look down on me, but he never did. His generosity of spirit in the water made me rethink my own behavior on land.
Oh my God, dude.
So, straight up, what he says there is, yes, that's insane, and it's funny. He's like, "Listen, I'm nothing compared. This dude's like a based surfer. I can barely swim." But the wildest thing is he opens. He's like, "Our place is in the pecking order reversed." He's like, "Whereas
No, but he
in
assumes
life,
his
I'm
pecking
the
order.
But that's what I'm saying. He's like, it's reversed in the ocean. Whereas in real life, I'm an elite.
I'm way
who
better
gets
than
to
him.
look down on him.
Yeah.
In the ocean, it's the other way. But he's kind enough not to look down on me. He's like, but again, the implication is like, but I look down on him in real life.
So maybe I shouldn't look that far.
This
down.
is an indictment and an admission. Like, this guy is the worst person ever.
This is why I said at the top. I was like, at least he is honest, because he's being like unbridled in his honesty.
Yes.
It's not that like maybe pecking orders shouldn't exist. It's that it just happened to be reversed in this case. And generally,
So
I'd
it's
be
maybe
better than him.
rethink the pecking.
I know I'm going to rethink my priors.
Right.
Not that like
To
elites
me-
don't exist.
But it's not to suggest for a second that the pecking order doesn't exist.
Right.
It's that he should ignore the pecking order to be more generous.
What a weirdo to
To a
walk through
family
life.
member.
He's just
Like, it's
this
such a
guy's just
weirdo.
super normal. He was like, "Hey, how's work? Hey, I'll teach you to surf." And he's learned this life lesson that should be obvious. It's
Can
just
I
be
ask you-
kind to other people.
Can I ask you guys this question? This thing prints, and you're in this family. Doesn't it make it 1,000 times worse?
Yeah.
Doesn't it make it? Because now he's just actually put words to what you always suspected. That he's looked down on you for
Yeah.
years.
The wife, you gotta leave him. You gotta leave this guy. There's no coming back from it. There's no coming back from this. I mean, in the New York Times, this guy has basically pointed out, he's like, I spent years mad at my based electrician brother-in-law who lifts to death metal and surfs. That's the story. Like, that's pretty bad, dude.
It's sort of like the political equivalent of OJ's "If I Did It."
No, it is.
It's like, this is an appropriate thing to write, bro. Why did you ever put pen to paper? Why did you do that?
I can only imagine it's exacerbated tensions 10,000 times.
Yeah. Well, so he goes on to say, like, we found common ground through surfing.
Right.
Things that we agreed on. We don't agree on everything, but maybe that's not important. Oh, sweet. Great. You think that's going to be the end of the article, right? Like, I have decided, me, the elite Ivy Leaguer, that Matt is redeemable and I can be friends with him.
I'm providing some...
Yeah. And then in the kicker, he's like, but like people like Stephen Miller are irredeemable and they can...
Oh my God.
No way.
Dude.
Yes.
That's how he caps it?
Yeah. He's like, I learned this great lesson, but then also some people I have not learned the lesson.
I don't think that I've read at any point in the last 5 years anything that perfectly encapsulates
so
the modern
funny.
left more than this thing.
It's so funny.
It's a genuine window into the liberal insanity.
Yeah.
It genuinely is, but also this contempt for your just middle America, salt of the earth person who has a job. He fixes.
He's an electrician, which is a job that's actually going to be around. I don't think there's any jobs for Obama speechwriters really left.
Right.
Not much demand out there for that, especially after this.
But
after this,
imagine, regardless of what your job title is, immediately thinking you're better than somebody like that.
That's the big dude. It's the centerpiece of the argument against the left, and this guy just completely admitted to all of it.
Dude,
all of it.
because it's reinforced off the left side. Just watch MSNBC tonight. Like, you can see it. They all sit around and they can't wait for their, like, sipping champagne and cocktail parties in Georgetown and Manhattan and chilled Chablis and everything else because they all reinforce the idea that they're the smartest people on the planet and everybody else are just rubes who've either been tricked into policies that they don't understand or that they just haven't been effective enough because of some communications falsity.
Oh, misinformation's out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a misinformation. It's the internet, really. If we could get rid of that.
Yeah.
It would be all fine. It would be the internet.
This guy's name was Matt Kapler, Kappler. Let's find him online and believe.
No, that's the good
That's
guy.
the electrician.
it?
My
that's the
God.
guy.
Wait.
Smug, you're being irresponsible.
So Matt Kapler's a good guy. Let's find him and have him join us in bullying this guy. What's the name of the guy?
David Litt?
David Litt. Is that L-I-T-T?
I think it's L-I-T-T.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever his
David
name
Litt,
is,
you'll be found.
I do like the inversion of let's raise up old Matt.
Yeah.
Because Matt's got an axe to grind.
Dude, we should get Matt on the show. Matt, if you're listening, Matt might be listening.
He might be listening.
It says in the piece that he's a fan of Joe Rogan.
Dude, Matt.
Oh, so he's probably...
He might be a listener.
Matt, come on the show. Come on, Ruthless. Tell us about your brother.
You dude, and
Or brother-in-law. Let's hear about this guy.
let's get ugly with it.
Yeah.
I want to know the slights.
Yeah.
You know? Because it'll help inform what we do in Thanksgiving anyway.
This is so funny.
Oh, my God. What
did you think when this weirdo put this letter out? Did your whole family begin laughing at him?
It's just D-bag central, dude. It's just unbelievable.
Unreal.
So our leads our question of the day. Is it time to start snubbing your elitist liberal family? And like I have two minds of this because the way that we always took the Thanksgiving component was during the era where you were getting that USA Today, LA Times thing where it's like, it's time to draw a hard line and like start snubbing your conservative relatives. Like be a dick on purpose because, you know, maybe you can shame them into having another point of view. And so we always provided that other side of the coin, which is, well, how you would handle it if you were hosting the Thanksgiving dinner and that came at you. I'm of the feeling that, like, look, family is family. Right? You're all going to disagree about stuff. And, like, Lord knows you're going to have a million things to divide you or whatever. But, like, when you're from places and deal with people like we do, this whole thing is mind-blowingly incomprehensible to me.
Yeah.
The idea that you are, like, intentionally a dick to some husband of your sister because he doesn't agree with the same politics.
Well, that's
unbelievable.
That's the thing, is the central to the fanatical nature of the left now is they've programmed their progressives into believing I'm willing to cut off family for the cause. I worship at the altar of progressivism.
Well, in a more selfish way, though, like I'm anti-snub of the liberal family for one reason, and that is, Think of the content.
Yep.
Like here's the thing. Like you can just invert the whole thing on them. Act better than them. You know, patronize them.
Yeah.
Be like, are you absorbing a lot of misinformation on Blue Sky? I'm worried. I'm a little concerned about what your information
Are you
flow
worried
is.
about your weed supply now that the kids have been taken from California?
There is a fine line between snubbing and being a provocateur.
Yeah.
Which the provocateur
Way more fun.
provides a lot of great content.
There is good fun in that, and I agree with you. Holmes, family is family, family is wealth. But one of the great things about being a conservative is that you're not afraid of being around libs because every time they open their mouth, it confirms that you are right.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so it is a joy to be around libs because you know that they're going to say things that are absolutely insane.
Okay, when you like and subscribe to the Ruthless Variety program, and then you leave a little comment on our question of the day, we read them all, we summarize them, we ingest them, and then we provide a little handful of examples that we think best illustrate not only the point of view, but some solid takes. Good stuff. And to do that, we always start with a voice.
Okay, first one comes from Mamaya311. And Mamaya writes, there was a point when I was a child when my mom stopped reasoning with me and just started enforcing consequences to my actions. That's how you deal with the left. Just start doling out the consequences. The time for discussion is over. The people have spoken by electing DJT.
Man, do I love that.
That's just good parenting.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
It's just good parenting. But that's right.
Yep.
We don't need to reason with this situation. You just enforce the law.
unnecessary.
It's
Right.
one of the things we were talking about on Friday about how the permission structure that had been granted by the left allowed people to stand on the sides of the street and throw bricks and pieces of road and rocks at federal law enforcement without fear of consequence. And once you have that, you're damn close to anarchy. This is a good comment. I love that. All right, Dunks, what else we got?
This is from Grelay. How do you say that? Grelian? Grelian 242. To stop the violence of the extreme left, enforce the law. No apologizing, no understanding. If they break the law, they do the time. The activists need to be taught that they will be held accountable for their decisions and the consequences will be theirs as well.
100%.
I mean, it's totally right. And can we play a clip just to give a little evidence of this? Let's play clip 2, if you don't mind, fellas. All right, so these are people
This is
in
after the
Camarillo.
show.
Yeah, this is after the show that we filmed on Friday. This is in Camarillo, California, where there are law enforcement vehicles that are being hit with big chunks of rock, street, bricks, all kinds of things like breaking windows,
Moving
doing
vehicles.
whatever. But it goes right to this comment's point, which is just enforce the law. Like there is no reason why people would do that if they felt like they would spend the rest of their lives in prison paying for it as a result.
Yep.
But if you've created a permission structure and a lefty jurisdiction where you think you're going to get away with it, it emboldens it.
I mean, when you
right.
call something a sanctuary city,
Yeah.
when you say you're going to give people amnesty, when you say torching buildings isn't a crime because it's property, not people, it adds up over time.
Yep.
People start to think, well, I'm never going to be held accountable. I can do whatever the hell I want.
You get the wrong idea. That's for sure. All right, third comment, please, Smug.
This is from R Bridges U9M. Thank you for the Friday show. Only one way that I know of. You stop talking about arresting people and actually do it. I know it'll increase left talking points. Have a plan to deal with these talking points and just do the right thing. I could not agree more. And I think, so far the Trump presidency has been exactly what is needed because for so long Democrats were like, oh, you can't get rid of illegals. Oh, you can't do this. You can't. Everything President Trump has been done while the left has been crying about it. And all that we have seen is crime has gone down. The border is effectively sealed shut. The stock market has hit all-time highs. Seems like, gas is down $2. $2 since this time 2 years ago. Seems like just stop listening to them, act on it. The results speak for themselves.
Yeah, it becomes a smaller and smaller constituency that it relates to because the rest of the world is seeing the good things that are happening. But again, you go back to California and look what's happened over the weekend. If we can play clip 3, please, fellas.
It appears a protester fired some kind of gun at federal agents. This happened this afternoon. It was a really chaotic scene at the time. A lot of smoke was being launched at the protesters. And again, it appears a protester fired back with that weapon. It looks like he fired at least a couple of times. We have not heard about any agents being hurt.
Okay, so but it illustrates what we're talking about here.
Yep.
Like the slimmer and slimmer number of people who this stuff is going to resonate with is a good thing, and that's positive for all the reasons that you just outlined, Smug. But it doesn't actually help law enforcement officers who are in these very slim regions that don't have any consequences to speak of. Like the fact that we haven't seen that guy's face on a mugshot serving 20 to life because of shooting a weapon at ICE officers tells us there's an awful lot more work to do in terms of enforcing the law, which is what all of our commenters were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, these are all federal offenses, though. We may not get great partners in some of these left-wing jurisdictions, you know, that have elected Soros prosecutors and whatnot. But these are federal crimes.
Yep.
And so the Trump administration needs to make sure these people serve real time.
They need to go
100%.
looking.
Yeah.
No question about it. All right. So that's our comments. Thanks again. Like and subscribe, and that's how you get them on the show. An update in current news, a big meeting with the NATO Secretary Mark Rutte on Monday. And I know a lot of you listeners have been focused on Ukrainian policy, how we're going to deal with the Russia-Ukraine war. A lot of you were very critical of the way that it had been administered by the Biden administration, us amongst them, and concerned about this continuing sort of American involvement in all of that. And I think Trump, anything you need to know about the way that President Trump sees foreign policy is that he takes the 50,000-foot end goal first. And however you get to that route changes with the environment and the dynamic atmosphere that others input into it. And it's a fundamental change from where the foreign policy establishment in Washington, D.C., and everywhere else has administered American foreign policy. Like there was, for years, I was taught that you just have to have one consistent message out of the United States and drive one consistent thing. And as long as you're consistent, everybody else knows how to navigate. That is fundamentally changed in recent years. Barack Obama, for sure. Joe Biden, for sure. It's one thing when you're doing the George W. Bush, like dead or alive situation, which is a pretty fundamental choice, but it's quite another when you get 20 years into that war and like the red lines get blurred and nobody understands what it is that you're doing there and all kinds of different stuff. And then like Barack Obama saying no nuclear weapons, but then pallets of cash that are shifted to Hamas and Hezbollah to attack our number one ally in the region, Israel. Like everything gets super hazy. Where Trump has taken, and I think one of the reasons why he's had such huge success in the Middle East is he puts the first thing first. And everything changes on how you get there based on how people react to it. And you recall during the campaign, he was saying, like, I'm going to end the Ukrainian-Russian war. And I very clearly, I don't think I'm speaking out of school when I'm assessing the way that he thought about it, which is by making Vladimir Putin just the bad guy and Zelensky just the good guy, we had boxed Putin in from being able to have a reasonable conversation about how to settle a conflict. And maybe if we don't use the foreign policy elite's language to suggest one way or another, but we just invite everybody in, that we can have a conversation. So that's the way the thing started. And then Zelensky got a lot out over his skis and being concerned about whether the United States was being too accommodating to Vladimir Putin in Russia. And you saw that Oval Office address where you had JD and the president and Rubio, everybody just like two-hand dunking on him, which is what led the foreign policy elite and the journalist community in America to say, like, we told you the guy's with Putin, right?
Yeah, okay.
Which is nonsense because now you take it forward another 3 months from that moment, And Vladimir Putin, we're not privy to the private conversations that this president has had with Putin, but whatever it was, didn't go well for Putin. Very, very concerned. Donald Trump is extremely angry about the whole thing and states that he has basically violated any sort of trust that he had in being able to resolve this resolution.
Well, there was an interesting little vignette that Trump was talking about when he was talking to Putin, and, you know, he gets off the phone and Melania's like talking to him and he's like, well, the call went well. And Melania's like, well, they just sent missiles into Kyiv.
Right.
And very foolish of Vladimir Putin to test Donald Trump's resolve and to try to make Trump look like a fool for trying to get to peace is very foolish.
Well, and I think Putin's operating under an understanding of the old America.
Yeah.
By the say one thing, you stick to it.
Yeah, I mean,
and
look
the
what
last
happened.
thing he said was that, like, he's
Right.
not happy with Zelensky, and so, okay, that's their new policy, so I'm going to do whatever the hell I like.
Right.
But the inputs that guide that 50,000 foot for peace thing are what control the way that Donald Trump does things. And it's a huge error on Russia's part, a massive error to try to think for a second that he's not going to have a reaction to that. Because the peace thing is the peace thing. And if now you're the impediment to that, and like a lot of people will say, oh, it was naive to ever trust Vladimir Putin. Okay. But what did your way do other than a 3-year war where your American taxpayer are $400 billion deep into sending everything? He thought we'd take another track and see if it worked. It didn't. So now he's got an answer for that.
And so I love this situation that President Trump has come up with. This, to me, is absolutely perfect, and I love this foreign policy approach. It says here, a source familiar with the plans tell Axios the U.S. will sell around $10 billion in weapons to NATO allies in the first wave, and then those allies get those weapons to Ukraine. So essentially, America is selling weapons.
Yeah.
Right? Made in America weapons are being sold, and then these NATO countries distribute it to Ukraine. Perfect. That's great. If you decide to be on the other side of American foreign policy, I think this is the best way, is we sell weapons to our allies. That, like, being a friend of America means you have access to American weapons, we sell you, and then your enemies get the shit kicked out of them with American weapons. That's a win-win.
Yeah, and so there are several other tools that the United States has used. Biden used none of them effectively. But you heard Trump on Monday talk about secondary tariffs. Essentially what that is sanctions, right? And what they're going to do is set a timeline of 50 days for Russia to make some kind of a deal here or come to the table, or they're going to get 100% what he calls secondary tariffs that impose tariffs on any country that is buying Russian oil. That includes China. That includes India. That includes some of our allies, right? And so all of a sudden you've boxed Russia in for having an economic impact of people who have sided with Vladimir Putin in this conflict to make it a little bit more of a decision point.
Yeah. Then it's not just us asking the question to Putin of like, hey, man, when do you think we're going to get to the end of this?
Yeah.
Maybe she starts to take an interest.
I
You
mean,
know?
you would think they would have to. You would think that they would have to, because now there's an economic component
Right.
that they've tried to deal with on the regular tariff point and are largely making progress on. But now their guy that they stood with in this Ukraine standoff is causing a complete reversion of any progress that they made and making it economically incredibly difficult to make a deal. And so I think Putin, at some level, is getting boxed in by the world community. And this is how you do it, right? It's not how all the people who were fired from the State Department would do a deal here.
I don't know. A couple more round tables, get some thought leaders together. They would have figured it out.
Maybe some construction paper. And
Yeah.
Or like sending them 9mm and hoping that they work their way out of it. Like that's basically, I mean, I'm being a little hyperbolic, but that's basically what the Biden administration did, which is send them nothing in order to win a war, but something to just sort of like box up the Russians. And that never worked. It was just a complete end of a pit of spending for the American people. He changed all of that by running it through NATO. He now is a partner in Root who says, we're willing to buy it, meaning you, American taxpayer, are not just like a philanthropy here.
Yep.
Right.
And it's more important to us than it is to you. We've all identified on that. And so we're going to be the administrator of this, which, by the way, the 8-year goal to get them to 3% and 5% of their GDP spending that they just announced 3 weeks ago or so, it's why they can do that.
Yep.
So like all of this falls into the accomplishment category. Now, is it going to work out? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like Putin has any concern for rationality at this point. But it's going to make it harder for him. It's going to make it harder for him. And I think we have, on the conservative side, drawn too many hard lines on what that conflict means to us. Because we were concerned about spending taxpayer dollars overseas, because why are we getting involved in a war that doesn't immediately threaten the United States? All good questions, really good. But also a country that really is a problematic one with Vladimir Putin's Russia, that ultimately is going to cause grave damage in that sort of domino chain of events that we saw start with the pulling out of Afghanistan under those circumstances, that allows other world leaders across the globe to think, oh, America's not going to do anything about it. And these are the things that matter. But he takes such a pride. I don't think, like, you're either pro-Trump or you're anti-Trump on all this stuff. That's just not what it is. Like, it's a pretty pragmatic approach. It's different. Like, if you're a hawk, you're a defense hawk, you don't know what to make of this.
Yeah, but you should be happy.
You should be.
Like just Donald Trump getting what he got out of NATO for their own defense of Europe is a sea change event.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Like, just be happy.
Yeah.
And these people, some of these people just can't, because they just can't give Trump a win.
No, exactly. They can't be happy because they think they're in charge.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they think somebody voted for them. But 78 million people in this country voted to put Donald Trump in charge. And thank God for that, because he is doing exactly what Josh is talking about, because he is shaking things up in the establishment. He's shaking things up around the world to deliver peace in a way that some of the old ways were not working.
Right.
And so I think really what's driving their anger at Trump is that they're not in charge.
Right. They're impotent.
And the reality is voters put Trump in charge, and thank God.
Well, it also just like throws the whole Biden establishment thing on its head, right? I mean, these people just fucked this up from the absolute beginning, and they had no way to get out, and
Can't
no
auto-pen
suggestion.
that thing.
Dude, because they think for a second they had 4 long years, and they had no way of articulating how this ended. They never once presented to the American people how this whole thing ends. They don't even know what their preferred outcome was. And like Trump comes in like, my preferred outcome is peace here. How do we work through that to get to that? And I think that's just like in a modern day, a way more practical way of doing all of this.
Yeah, I mean, and you've seen the reaction from the head of NATO. I mean, that guy could not be more thrilled.
He's got a real partner there, which says something.
It does say something. I mean, he's actually working with these guys, and the previous administrations did not have that sort of relationship with our European allies.
No, it went the other way. All right, you guys ready for some fun?
Yes.
Always.
You know that golfer clip?
Yeah, we played it last week.
That we
The
played?
golfer fight.
So I saw that the guy who got his ass kicked like did a little mea culpa, but I was real drunk and I played 36 holes and like I'm real sorry for anybody who encountered me and all that. But even funnier was people who like went to the golf course and the following day, they did a little something. We played clip 4. So these people are at the hole where the fight went down. It looks familiar from those of you who joined us last week. There's an RIP sign. They put up a little flag stick commemorating where that guy got beat down and thrown into the lake.
Quote underneath the RIP says, "Fucking cry about it." Close quote.
That's what that guy was shouting. and I'll give him credit because, like, good for him to put out that video being like, man, I was drunk. Huge mistake. That's what a man does.
Yeah, no. I like the way that he handled it. Although, like,
It's a shame it wasn't earlier, but everyone has the good days and bad days, but owning up to them, that makes you a man.
I like it. All right, next story. Listen, there is, you guys know Uno?
Yes.
The game Uno?
Yeah, it's a great game.
It's like what you play with your kids when you're on a beach vacation or a trip to the lake and it rains. Mm-hmm. Because it's like the one thing your 4-year-old can understand. And it's fun. It's a fun game. So Vegas casinos are now opening up Uno.
Let's go.
In casinos. They're like having, now it's initially, there's like a non-wagering event. But apparently, this is according to Newsweek, for many Americans, casinos may conjure up glamorous images of James Bond-style sophistication and high-roller strategy payoffs. But now, a new venue is due to launch a game based on Uno. The card game, popular with families and children thanks to its simple rules, will be the attraction at a dedicated suite in Sin City this week with similar Uno venues planned. This is at the Palms Resort Casino, where they're going to have an Uno card deal. What do we think of this, fellas?
This is the dorkiest shit ever. It's pathetic, dude. Get out of here.
It
says here that it's like more Uno clubs are expected to open across the U.S. later this year, according to toy maker Mattel. It's like, dude, get out of here. We're out here playing Mattel games in a casino.
Okay. Here's counterpoint.
Go to the craps table.
Look, counterpoint, Smug.
Oh, I got to hear this.
I think this is a huge opportunity.
Okay.
Let me explain why. When I go to a casino, like with my wife, sometimes she gets intimidated at the idea of sitting there and betting and stuff. And she doesn't like the pressure of it. We're playing blackjack and she's like, hit, stay, I don't know. And I just want to take my money back. So a lot of times she'll just stand behind me and stuff. And we have fun and everything.
Bro, that's what we've been at casinos.
Yeah.
That's what the restaurants and the stores are for, bro.
Well,
we're there
but think
at
about
the craps
this.
table.
But think about this.
We'll roll the dice. And she doesn't want to do that, man. That's why they got the restaurants and they got the shows and they got the stores.
Here's the thing, Smug. All of those things you just named cost money.
But, I mean, the gambling does too.
If our wives could go and play Uno Reverso and not spend any money, and we get to sit and play blackjack, think about it. These Uno clubs could probably allow children in. Children aren't allowed on the casino floor.
This sounds even worse by the second.
No,
So here's how you get the children in the casino.
I think it's fantastic because then you don't have to deal with the issue of your wife's like, wow, my gosh, you just lost that hand.
So what you're saying, if I'm cutting to the chase here, is it's a good thing because it occupies your wife's time while you're betting away your family finances.
You know how like a resort has a kids club?
That's what this is?
This is the kiddie casino club.
It's horrible.
I think it's a great idea.
Well, I mean, if you're going to have to encounter it, I mean, geez, you've seen some of these casinos lately. Like, they just let anybody in there. If you could just siphon some of them off for a simple game of Uno.
I like that they let anyone in there. That's like, when you're sitting at, when I was recently in Vegas, and you look around the craps table, and you're like, man, this is some of the worst folks around. But we're in this together. Just don't roll 7, brother. Let's keep this going. It brings people together. All us dregs united, hoping he hits that hard 8, bro. Let's get that 10-1. That shit is fun. So Uno, that's killing it. That's killing the vibe.
I have a question for Duncan.
Yeah.
If the kids are in the casino kids club playing Uno, would there be an opportunity to bet on that game?
Yes.
So in other words,
like a pari-mutuel.
As an adult, you could bet on which kid you think is going to win and which one.
That I could get interested in. If we could bet on the children,
right,
and or wives,
being able to bet on the outcome of the Uno, sort of like a synthetic CDO.
Yeah,
like we're sitting through the glass and we're watching the children, seeing who's doing the discards and who's got the reverses, and we're placing wagers on that. I love it.
Yeah, it's like a pari-mutuel type deal where we sit behind mirrored glass and we examine the competitors and then bet on their acumen.
That is the most degenerate shit I've ever heard. I mean, that's worse than betting on the spelling bee.
No. We're bringing that back, folks. Just wait. Next spring, you're going to love it. Betting on the dorks. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it works. But this is very similar.
I love it. Ashbrook's got a great idea.
Gosh, this is good. Okay, well, Palms, call us. We could administer a game that everybody's going to be into. I can promise you that. They're going to leave the craps tables in droves to bet on these little runts that they think can do a double reverse wild card.
Look, all I'm saying is in casinos, some places in Vegas, you can play war.
Yeah.
High-low. You can play high-low.
I mean, those...
Uno's not far off.
That's the one. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, right. Changing 500. I'll tell you what, when Smug's kid steps up to the Uno table, I'm going all in.
Oh, yeah. No,
he's
going to be able to count
I'm
cards.
going to teach my
that.
kid blackjack first, yeah.
It's no question.
We got 3 shoes in there, boy.
Dropping toothpicks on the escalator.
Go with us or what?
Full.
Yeah, I'm going to teach him.
Teach him.
Just, what was the show that Rain Man watched?
Wapner.
No, it was
Yeah,
Jeopardy.
Wapner.
No,
People's
Wapner.
Court, and it was Jeopardy, too.
No,
It was
Wapner.
just, it was
Judge
People's Court.
Wapner.
People's Court.
Yeah,
that's right.
Wapner. Yeah, you got to find a way to syndicate that. Listen, remember our question of the day. Is it time to start snubbing your liberal relatives? How do you see all that? Do you fight fire with fire? Do you try to take the offensive? Do you take more of the approach that the Ruthless Friday program is suggesting? Interested in your comments on it one way or the other. Let's get flavorful with that.
Yeah.
Because you all have had experiences with this nonsense. Mostly incoming, and you've had to figure out a way to counterpunch on it. You can include some of that,
Yeah,
too.
maybe you already have a mutual snub underway.
Yeah.
Give us the color there.
And maybe there's like a 9-month ramp up into your snubbing as you're going into a
Yeah.
Thanksgiving or that kind of thing.
Even if it's just a virtual snub, maybe
Yeah.
you've blocked each other on Facebook. I want to hear it.
Yeah. Well, when you like and subscribe to the Ruthless Friday program, you can comment and we will read it, and you will be on next week's episode. Thanks a bunch. Boys, listen, there's a lot going on this week. I'm feeling real good.
Yeah.
Feels like a heater.
Yeah.
Feels like a heater this week. So with that, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, thank you so much to the Minions. And for the new folks who have not yet, be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube. It's more fun in video. So until next time, Minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you Thursday. Stay ruthless.